Good evening, I'm Ebony Brandon. Today is Thursday, 25th January 2018. This is the SKN News Now Evening Edition. In the headlines tonight, nationally, Speaker Michael Perkins is attempting to defend his actions in the Parliament on Tuesday. Internationally, thousands of Congolese have fled to Uganda to escape a surge in violence. And in sport, Manchester United's Jose Mourinho has signed a new contract to 2020. We've got the details of these stories, the weather and Carib update, all ahead in tonight's edition of SKN News Now. In an attempt to defend himself against accusations of gross incompetence, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Michael Perkins, has denied that he is working in collusion with the government against the opposition members of the House. On Wednesday, Honorable Marcella Liebert said Tuesday's proceedings, in her mind, provided further evidence that the Speaker is continuing to make biased rulings against the opposition members and to loosely interpret or completely alter the rules and traditions of the House in favor with government wishes. Speaking with another media house, Mr. Perkins dismissed the accusation as utter nonsense, and although Ms. Leibert's comments were made outside of the National Assembly, he added that he considered the statement to be disrespectful to the chair. As in the past, the Speaker claimed to only make rulings in the House in accordance with the standing orders. Ms. Liebert was also very critical of the Speaker's decision to allow the Attorney General, Honorable Vincent Byron, to bring a matter which is before the courts to the National Assembly. On Tuesday, Mr. Byron informed the House that action was being pursued in the court to have the seat of MP for Constituency 6, Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas, vacated over allegations that he has become a citizen of another country.
And then, later on, allowing the Attorney General to speak for about 20 minutes on a matter that is sub judice, a matter that is before the court. He himself said so, that they brought a matter, a claim against Dr. Douglas, and they filed it in the court the day before. So it's in the court. The rule says that you can't speak on a matter that's sub judice unless, in the opinion of the Speaker, it does not prejudice any of the parties involved, the interests of any of the parties involved. So it's not just the opinion of the Speaker. It has a qualification. The opinion of the Speaker must be guided by whether or not he thinks that it's prejudicial to any of the parties involved. Listen to the Attorney General yesterday. And the only person who doesn't think that that is prejudicial to Dr. Douglas, what he was saying in there yesterday, is the Speaker. I think the only person who thinks so is the Speaker.
Ms. Lambert further expressed her shock and awe on Tuesday at the response given to her by Speaker Perkins when she questioned the appropriateness of the Attorney General's presentation on a matter in the hands of the court.
Imagine when I am questioning whether or not what the Attorney General was doing isn't in breach of the rules. The Speaker said that is the Attorney General advise him whether or not he in breach of the rules. So, yeah, I'm telling you. I say, so isn't this section saying that if something is before the court, you can't speak about it because it could be prejudicial? And in my mind, I think it was prejudicial. He said, well, he got advice from the Attorney General that it wasn't. So here's the AG doing something and then advising the Speaker that what he's doing is legal, and the Speaker accepts that. And this is something as a country that we have to stand up to. We cannot afford to have our democracy threatened the way it is in there.
The Speaker had a response for this criticism as well and attempted to defend both the Attorney General and his decision to allow what was said. According to Mr. Perkins, he saw no problem with the Attorney General's presentation regarding the government's action against Dr. Douglas, as Byron was only informing the nation and the House that a claim to determine Dr. Douglas's status in the House had been filed. The Speaker said in his opinion there was nothing untoward or out of order with that being done. Meanwhile, Dr. Terence Drew says he is disappointed in Senior Minister Vance Amory's update to the National Assembly on the ongoing issue of the poor air quality at the offices housing the Department of Labor. On Tuesday, while Mr. Amory said that the Ministry of Labor takes the health and safety of its employees seriously and has taken action to remedy the air quality concerns raised in the 2017 Bureau of Standards report, he also appeared to suggest that at least 2 of the workers who complained of being ill may have been stretching the truth. Dr. Drew expressed disappointment and concern over Mr. Amory's remarks, stating that he was in no way qualified to make many of the pronouncements he did.
Minister of Labour, the Honourable Vance Amory, accused the staff of going on sick leave to embarrass the government. I would like to say that the Honourable Vance Amory is not qualified to make statements like these. This is really trying to pull the doctor's good name through the mud when he knows very well he has no background to comment on it. I would like to say to him and the PS that you have a building over there that was deemed to have high levels of carbon dioxide and suspected mold. The Bureau of Standards confirmed that the carbon dioxide level was very high. I don't know how much time Vance Amory spends in that office, but if he spends enough time, I think he too might have to access the care of a medical doctor. For having to breathe in and breathe out high concentrations of carbon dioxide in any environment would affect the human being in many different negative ways. And instead of humbling himself and taking the necessary measures and following protocol when an environment would have deemed bad for people to occupy, that he really took off to condemn the people who are on sick leave. And so he wants to really condemn the doctors also. And I think that that is disrespectful.
The Department of Labor shares the building with the St. Kitts and Nevis National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention. The 2 departments also share the faulty air conditioning unit responsible for the high carbon dioxide levels in the building. Unlike the staff of the Department of Labor who still occupy the building and have been instructed by the Ministry of Labor to open windows to aid in improving ventilation, the management of the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention has opted not to have their employees occupy the space until the problem is solved. In other news, police have located the man wanted for questioning in relation to the death of his girlfriend Shirley Dawn Morton. Wayne Spire Chapman was found in Taylor's pasture Gingerland early this morning. 52-year-old Chapman, who police say suffers from diabetes, had to be taken for medical treatment after he was taken into custody. Morton was found dead in Chapman's Hanleys Road home on Sunday. An autopsy a day later determined that 45-year-old Morton died as a result of brain injury caused by multiple blunt force traumas to the head. Police had been searching for Chapman since then, calling him a person of interest in his girlfriend's death. Meantime, police have discovered another illegal stash of ammunition and a firearm. In an operation carried out by the Anti-Gang Task Force at an abandoned shack in Connery on Tuesday, officers found a Badishowski TP-70 .25 caliber firearm with 5 rounds of ammunition and a transparent plastic bag with 8 .38 special rounds of ammunition. A plastic bottle with 29 7.62mm rounds of ammunition was also found. A more thorough search of the area around the shack uncovered a number of marijuana fields. A total of 1,415 marijuana plants in varying stages of growth were uprooted. Investigations into the finds are in the works. However, no one has been arrested so far in connection with either the gun and ammunition or the marijuana. Last year, police removed 47 illegal firearms from the Federation's streets. Of that number, police say they arrested and charged persons in connection with 38 of the weapons discovered. And finally, this evening, the commission empowered by CARICOM to investigate marijuana's use in the region has submitted a status report to the Ghana-based organization. The 10-member CARICOM Regional Marijuana Commission, headed by Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies, will now begin to prepare recommendations which will be presented to the CARICOM Summit in Jamaica this July. Over the course of 2 years, the commission has held consultations in Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Belize, the Bahamas, Guyana, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Suriname. Consultations in Dominica were cancelled as a result of the passage of Hurricane Maria. According to the CARICOM Secretariat, the Commission has indicated that marijuana use is a significant social issue across the entire region, which embraces several complex dimensions, including the scientific, economic, social, religious, and legal. The Commission also reported that in all territories, common issues were raised in conversation, including vital information and strong opinions about marijuana and its use, including strong lobbying for use for medicinal reasons from a group of persons living with disabilities. It also noted just as many persons had important questions, wanted more information in education, and looked to the Commission's report to provide these answers. It also noted a call for more public education and a more coherent regional approach. The Commission, comprising experts in the scientific, medical, legal, and social science fields, as well as a representative each from the religious community and youth, were required by regional leaders to conduct a rigorous inquiry into the social, economic, health, and legal issues surrounding marijuana use in the Caribbean, and to determine whether there should be a change in the current drug classification of marijuana, thereby making the drug more accessible for all types of usage, be it religious, recreational, medical, or research. The Commission was also required to recommend the legal and administrative conditions to be applied should there be reclassification. It has been reviewing information and secondary data pertaining to marijuana laws and legislation regulating its use and classification. Findings related to research conducted on the medical or medicinal use of marijuana, the economic and social impact, and its implications for the region. Stay with us, still to come in just a moment, sport, the weather, and today's top international developments. People fleeing the east of Democratic Republic of Congo say they're escaping a surge in rapes, killings, and abductions by armed groups. The United Nations says more than 10,000 have arrived in neighboring Uganda since the beginning of December. Congo is facing a political crisis that has prompted protests, a violent crackdown by police, and an escalation of armed conflicts in several parts of the country. Malcolm Webb has more.
Rebecca Salama says many of her neighbours have been killed or raped in recent weeks. Armed groups keep attacking her village in the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's why she's walked here to neighbouring Uganda with her family. They're met by Ugandan soldiers near the border.
When you go to pick your crops or go to the forest for firewood, if you're a man, they kill you, and if you're a woman, they'll rape you. That's why we came here.
Along with other new arrivals, Rebecca continues her journey in a UN truck. The UN says more than 10,000 people have arrived here in the last month, fleeing a spike in violence at home. Everyone we spoke to says they don't know which armed groups are attacking them or why. They say the fighters carry guns, wear uniforms, and speak languages from all over Congo and neighbouring Rwanda. Since it's not safe at home, this refugee transit camp's the better option.
Tired and covered with dust, the new arrivals first have to line up here and get their feet sprayed with disinfectant, and everyone's made to come over here and wash their hands as well. After the journey, must be tiresome made to go through this, but the camp managers say it's necessary. Then everyone has to queue up here for a medical check in that tent at the end.
Rebecca's baby twins, Kelvin and Kelve, are identified as severely malnourished. She says she hasn't been able to harvest her crops for weeks and so hasn't produced enough breast milk. UN officials say these kinds of problems are typical among those arriving at the transit camp before they can be assisted and taken to long-term refugee settlements.
Most of the refugees arrive when they're very tired, because when you talk to them, they walk for a long distance. We also have cases where women arrive and claim they've been sexually harassed or raped.
It's cold here, especially at night. Blankets will help keep Rebecca's family warm until they can build a new home. Her husband, Innocent, thinks they'll never go back.
We've heard that here is peaceful. We're still on the way though. We're optimistic that everything will be better and not like Congo.
Their new life starts with spending the night on the floor of this shelter. They're safer here, but it'll be weeks before things get any easier.
With Venezuela's economy on the brink of collapse, the number of Venezuelans crossing the border into Colombia is on the rise. It is estimated that more than 500,000 made the move recently. Alessandro Rampietti reports from the border city of Cucuta, where many Venezuelan refugees are sleeping rough and in fear of being deported.
Over 1,000 Venezuelans are sleeping on the streets of this border town, in tents and hammocks, or lying on sheets of cardboard in plaza and sport fields, escaping hunger back home.
I would never have imagined living in these conditions. The hardest is not having a bathroom or water. There are children and pregnant women here.
During the day, they look for any job they can find.
Until recently, most of the tens of thousands who crossed through this footbridge into Colombia would sell low-cost food items there, such as oranges or bread, in exchange for hard currency and go back at the end of the day. Many still do, but an increasing number is deciding to stay.
Yoxi used to be a policewoman in Venezuela, but her salary wasn't enough to feed her children. Now she's selling what she can to buy a $12 bus ticket to Colombia's coffee fields.
I left hoping to find a job and send money back home, but nothing so far. I eat every other day to save enough and leave to where I am told I can work.
Authorities have started registering the new arrivals, promising shelters with basic facilities. But on this night, migration police arrived, striking a different tone.
Your border mobility card does not allow you to live here. You have 7 days to leave. If we catch you again, you face fines and deportation.
2 of them lacking documentation were indeed taken away.
We feel cheated. They said they were here to offer better conditions. Instead, they took our documents and told us we must leave, but we can't go back.
Some local politicians say most people in Cucuta are against providing shelters.
It's sending the wrong message that they can come here and receive shelter and food. Cucuta already has many problems and high unemployment. We need the international community to intervene.
But there's sympathy and compassion to be found, with locals delivering desperately needed food.
We need to be welcoming. Colombians were welcomed in Venezuela for many years during our civil war. Now it is our turn to help as much as we can.
A long-term solution to this crisis may not be found in a sandwich and a soda, but it will help these Venezuelans get through another night on the streets.
Still to come in this evening's news presentation is sport, the weather and Carib update. Manchester United manager Jose Mourinho has signed a contract extension until 2020 with the option of a further year. The 54-year-old's previous deal at Old Trafford was due to expire in 2019. Mourinho said that he was delighted that United felt and trusted that he was the right manager for the club for the foreseeable future. He added that he wished to say thank you to the owners and chief executive Ed Woodward. The Portuguese, appointed as Louis van Gaal's successor in May 2016, won the EFL Cup and Europa League in his first season. This season, United are second in the Premier League behind runaway leaders Manchester City, with the club still in the Champions League and FA Cup. Mourinho said Manchester United had set very high standards for itself, winning 3 trophies in one season, but those were the standards he expected his teams to aim for. He continued that he was creating conditions for a brilliant and successful future for Manchester United, adding his pleasure at the new knowledge that he and his players would be together for at least another 3 years. Woodward praised Mourinho for his exceptional work rate and professionalism, as well as for embracing the club's desire to promote top-quality young players. Woodward added that Mourinho had brought an energy and sense of purpose to everything he did within the club and was sure that this will continue to bring benefits for the fans and the club. And with that look at sport, we now have a look at this evening's weather forecast. Over St. Kitts and Nevis tonight, we can expect partly cloudy conditions, with conditions becoming cloudy after midnight with an 80% or very high chance of showers. Seas are moderate with wave heights of 1.2 to 1.8 meters or 4 to 6 feet. Cautions remain in effect for small craft operators and sea bathers against above normal sea conditions. Winds are east-northeast to northeast, ranging between 10 to 14 miles per hour, with slightly higher gusts over open waters. The sea level pressure is 1016.1 millibars or 30 inches. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:31 a.m. And that look at the weather brings us to the end of this evening's news presentation. We wrap up with a recap of this evening's top stories. Nationally, Speaker Michael Perkins is attempting to defend his actions in the Parliament on Tuesday. Internationally, thousands of Congolese are fleeing to Uganda to escape resurgent violence. And in sport, Manchester United manager Jose Mourinho has signed a new contract extension to 2020. I've been your presenter this evening, Ebony Brandon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Still straight ahead, Carib Update, followed by DJ Yardi.